Thank you. If my notes are correct, we're now transitioning to Emma Power and Dr. Brooke Ryan, who, when the screen sharing already starts, my notes are correct.
Thank you, Todd. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you wonderfully and I can see your slides.
Perfect. Just give me a second to sort. So thank you. I'm Brooke Ryan, presenting this talk on behalf of Associate Professor Emma Power and our team at UTS in Sydney, Australia. Our talk today is on difficult conversations in aphasia and how we can break the silence on mood and sexuality and intimacy. So I'm a postdoctoral researcher working on optimizing mental health and well-being. We've probably all had a difficult conversation at some point. I'd like you to take a moment to think about a difficult conversation you have had. What was the conversation about? What made it difficult? How did you handle the conversation? My presentation today is to really begin a dialogue about difficult conversations speech pathologists encounter when working with people with aphasia and how we can best manage these difficult conversations. So the notion of what is difficult can be hard to define. This is largely because what is regarded as difficult is inherently subjective. And therefore, it may depend on a person's experiences, values, and belief systems. Martin describes that a difficult conversation is a conversation with considerable emotional and value systems investment. They assert that it is easier to classify difficult conversations with them than define them. They may be planned or unplanned. They may be influenced by cultural perceptions or misperceptions. They may be welcome or unwelcome. Conversations between people with aphasia and speech pathologists include topics about the impact of stroke and everyday life. Some of these conversations may be difficult due to the sensitive nature of specific topics, potential unconscious biases, and societal taboos, and/or the need to provide unexpected or bad news. Speech pathologists are ideally placed and have a critical role to work in this area. And for a vulnerable population, the double challenge of having difficult conversations with a communication disability brings into the play the critical role of speech pathologists, not only for communication-related topics, but as also assets to the interdisciplinary team and our client. Here is a list of topics that could be considered difficult conversation topics. Do you feel confident to discuss all of these topics as part of your usual care? Oh, sorry, I just realized I'm not sharing my video. Apologies. So, do you feel confident to discuss all of these topics as part of your usual care? Would you try and avoid some of these topics? Have you considered the emotions that arise when you approach some of these topics with your clients? And do you consider some of these topics to be outside your role? Difficult conversations might be difficult for different reasons and for different people. But chances are you've avoided some of these conversations and you do not feel fully competent to manage them within your current role. And potentially they've impacted on you as a clinician or you as a person with aphasia. So much of the literature in this area appears to be in mood and sexuality, and more recently prognostication. So many of these topics are likely to be insufficiently addressed. But we do know that people with aphasia want speech pathologists to be key individuals in help managing these aspects of stroke care. But audit data and survey data suggest these areas are rarely sufficiently addressed. We do know that these topics are very difficult for everyone involved to raise. And speech pathologists often feel some sort of emotional distress during these conversations. The problem is we know that many people want to be asked about these topics during recovery, but they're often left undiscussed because they are deemed difficult. Unfortunately, if they're not addressed, they can be life-impacting consequences on everyone. We do know there are many barriers to these conversations, and they exist at a variety of levels. And these quotes are taken from research that has been published in the area from the two examples of mood and sexuality. So you can read the quotes on my screen about the mood in psychological well-being, research in psychological well-being, and people are saying talking about mental health isn't easy and you feel awkward. They say people with aphasia say they would have liked to have known that they're not alone, and they want the conversation of mood addressed during their recovery. Another person with aphasia has said the hospital staff wouldn't even know that they're feeling depressed because they haven't opened the conversation. I do know there's a number of other barriers there, and they exist at a variety of levels. The purpose of the talk today is really just to begin to open a dialogue about how difficult these conversations are and how we can move to best managing them. Another example is in the sexuality and intimacy literature that Dr. Associate Professor Emma Power is leading. So she really talks about the silence that no one is talking about this topic. So people with aphasia report that it's harder to verbally initiate and talk about desire for sex when their spouses reported that their partner with aphasia were no longer able to express their feelings. And other areas of research say that couples are never asked about sexuality during rehab. And there's a quote there that is particularly relevant where someone said, "Stroke doesn't change the essence of who I am or what I want. It only changes what I can do. It doesn't change what I want." So my talk today is to let you know that our team has started to embark on a research agenda in this area. We're in the middle of a scoping review that have found that difficult conversations are ill-defined in speech pathology. It is really apparent that we need further information in order to increase clinician recognition of, reflection on, and management of difficult conversations for people with aphasia. And ideally, our research will lead to resources to support clinicians to initiate difficult conversations as part of their patient-centred care. We hope that these conversations will be able to encourage reflection from both clinicians and clients involved, and that these conversations can be provided in accessible formats for everyone. We hope that conversations can occur and are being reviewed that are aligned with person-centred care and the goals that someone wants to achieve in rehab. So we know that we're only just starting to embark on this research area, and I'm just starting the conversation today. But thank you for listening, and happy to take any questions and any updates as we progress throughout the research. Thank you, Todd.